This conference will now be recorded.
Go for it.
Okay. So I call Inland Wetlands Watercourse meeting to order, April 15th. First order of business, or second order of business, approval of minutes of February 19th, 2020. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes, and are there any corrections, deletions, etc.?
I'll move to accept the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCann made a motion to accept the minutes. We have a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Next item, old business. Number A is 2020 two-lot subdivision with proposed disturbance, 13,000 square foot of upland review area. And this is the, a piece over by Summer Street there. So Kelly, you have received the packet from REMA. Do you have any comments on it?
Not really. I provided some of my comments in the staff comments memo, but I'm in general agreement with everything Mr. Logan said.
All right, any commissioners have any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Mr. McCann?
Did Mr. Logan drop off?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Is there a solar array in this application somewhere?
Oh dear, what did I do?
I did see that.
Hopefully not.
Well, in section 3.2.1 erosion and sedimentation, you make reference to a solar array being of moderate erodibility.
Yep, I see it. Sorry about that. That was from another project.
Okay, so we should just scratch that off, George.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. McCann?
Yes, I do. And it's not paginated, but it's the pictures that you gave, photo number 5, wetland A. That sure does look like a vernal pond to me.
Photo number 5. I don't, you mean, oops, sorry, I got the wrong report up. Hold on a second. I'm getting ready for another meeting that I have at 7:30, so that was my issue. Photo number. Yeah, I understand that that does look, but it's very, very shallow. I think you can even see the leaves right under the water, which means we're really talking about 2 or 3 inches of water at that time. So even if this was at sufficient depth and hydro period for it to be a vernal pool, the fact that this is surrounded by quite dense development means that there is really no chance that this will be a vernal pool from a perspective of having obligate species, which is wood frogs and spotted salamanders or mole salamanders, because as you know, they need a large amount of area in order for them to typically go through their life cycle.
All right, so you would not categorize this as a vernal pond under any circumstances?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Any other questions from any other commissioners? So we have this application, and Kelly has represented that it appears to be a complete application and that we should consider accepting it. Correct, Kelly?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCann.
That's not me.
No, sorry. No, mind.
the superintendent made several recommendations. Also, are we making sure that those recommendations are going to be reflected in the application for a vote?
Hello?
On page 2 of
This is,
of report, detailed landscaping, conservation easement, detailed construction phasing plan, and topsoil stockpiling were questions.
So as I
No,
understand it, Kelly's recommendation includes stipulations that a detailed landscaping plan should be submitted,
should be.
conservation easement granted, more detail on construction phasing, and the topsoil stockpile is depicted, should be relocated. Are these
Well, they're not in the
suggestions?
current they're not in the current application, Mr. Chairman, so
I understand that. I understand that. So what I'm asking is, are these suggestions acceptable to the applicant, and would he accept them as stipulations?
Mr. Vicenzi?
Hell, you gotta let him, you gotta open them up here.
Oh, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, hi, guys. Good evening. I'm sorry, just repeat that question again?
Okay, so Kelly has suggested that this application is complete and should be accepted, which is the first
Okay.
step in our process. However, she says in her report, the following issues should be addressed by the applicant. A detailed landscaping restoration plan should be submitted for review and approval. This
Okay.
should include invasive species management plan for the wetland and wooded area, in addition to replanting efforts in areas that are to be cleared. Number 2, a conservation easement should be granted to the town along the approximate proposed limit of clearing, so, encompassing the wetlands. It should be clearly demarcated in the field with hard structure, such as a fence post, or walls, or monuments, or something.
When you say a conservation easement along the silt fence, what exactly are you implying? I'm not quite understanding that.
Kelly?
Yeah,
I'm just recommending that perhaps we might want to put a conservation easement on a portion of each of these 2 lots, just to ensure that after these houses are constructed and built and families move into them, that they don't start infringing upon the wetland resource as it is.
So what you're basically doing, as I understand a conservation easement, you are ceding any future development rights by granting this easement to the town. Is that correct, Kelly?
Essentially, it's essentially that we're buying those development rights in a way, but not that you could really develop on it anyway. But the idea is just to keep those wetlands as protected as we can, especially given the relatively urban nature of the surrounding area.
Oh, so you mean beyond, so basically, this would imply anything beyond the silt fence or the limits of clearing where we show it now, correct? That would be,
Exactly.
that would be designated as a conservation easement, that area.
That's what I recommended, yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't see a problem with that because I don't foresee the buyer of this property, once we establish that clearing limit, I foresee no reason why he or anyone else would have to do any activity in there at all. So yeah, we can definitely
Okay.
designate that as a conservation easement. I don't see a problem with that.
And the next suggestion that Kelly has offered is that a more detailed construction phasing plan should be submitted. Now, understand, we're going to accept this application, if these commissioners vote on it,
Okay.
then you're going to have to come before us. So what these items that Kelly has suggested here, you have to address at the next meeting when you come before us looking for approval, and you're going to fill in the blanks, so to speak. So she's saying a more detailed construction plan should be submitted. And then finally, the stockpile, she'd like to see it moved to a different area while
Uh,
you're doing this job.
On which lots? On both lots or?
No, it is, I don't have the map in front of me. It is, the topsoil stockpile is depicted in an area that isn't supposed to be cleared. It's depicted beyond the clearing limit. So I was just saying to pull it out of there because if we're not clearing there, it's gonna be hard to put a stockpile in that area.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, on parcel B, on parcel B.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we could move that farther out of the clearing limit. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Parcel A, I believe on parcel A, it's already shown outside of the clearing limit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Hey, Tom?
we have Kelly's recommendation.
Okay,
We've
I'm
gone through
sorry.
her comments. Go ahead, Mr. Vincenzi.
I'm sorry, yes. One other question. When you say detailed construction plan, are you referring to the construction sequence as far as a detailed construction sequence?
Yeah, just
Because,
adding a few, yep, I saw it on there, just adding a few more details.
okay, because yeah, you did see where we provided that, the construction
Yep, I did.
sequence details? Okay, okay. Yeah, if you could just tell me, and obviously you'll email me a list of these few things that you're looking for, and that way we can get those to you. Okay.
Okay,
If I-
so,
For a moment, couple
Hey,
of
Tom?
things, if I may.
hang on.
Okay.
Tom? John, I have a question, Tom.
Yes, John, go ahead.
Based on the photographs I'm looking at, is there any major cleanup that has to take place there? Help prevent any flooding or misaligned erosion or anything?
At the most, there was some old soil
Yeah.
piles that have overgrown for many, many years. Because as you recall from some of the photographs that I showed, the old aerial photograph where the two lots were, that area was completely cleared back in 65, 70.
Yes.
So there are some soil piles, but they're overgrown. So I don't think they're causing an environmental issue. Now, there might be some miscellaneous debris. Those obviously will be picked up. But since I have your attention, a couple of things that I would like to work with Kelly on and with my client on the conservation easement, to put what seems to be a reasonable line in a plan and submit that. Number two, because you remember one of my recommendations that was made, and I think it was also made by Kelly, is that we were going to increase the development envelope to something that's reasonable, to have at least 15 feet from the side of the house, or else it's very difficult to develop it without encroachment. So we don't want to be before you again for that. That was one recommendation. The second one, regarding invasive species control, we have to do it in a reasonable fashion, because I can tell you that this is a site that has a lot of invasives. Apart from the trees, which are not, a lot of the shrub layer is invasive. So if we can come up with something reasonable based on the species, then I think we will be okay. But going throughout the entire site and removing invasives will be too much of an onerous activity for this lowly proposal, in my opinion.
Kelly, any comment to that?
Nope, I agree with that. I think that we could work together both on where that conservation easement lies, and the invasive species plan. Totally agree.
Okay. Any other questions by the commissioners? We entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept application 2020-1.
I believe that's by Mr. Hoydick. Is that correct?
That's by Mr. Hoydick, yes.
I can't see your face.
I know, that's all right.
I will second the motion, Tom.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Waite. Any further discussion? Let's call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It looks like unanimous. Okay, so your application is accepted, and now the clock is ticking, and you have to work with Kelly to address these items before the next meeting. Okay?
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
And when will the next meeting be, Kelly?
The third Wednesday in May. Is it the
In-
20th? I think it's the 20th, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be, well, I guess we're probably not gonna be in real life, but, we'll probably be digital and unfortunately. But
Okay.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
Mr.
most likely.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hoydick.
do we have to determine if this has to go to public hearing?
I think we'll do that at the next meeting.
Okay,
So I think we should just hold off on that until they come back.
and then propose,
Fill in
okay,
the blanks here, and then we can make
Okay.
that determination.
okay, fine.
All
Okay.
right.
That would be in June anyway, Ron.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, moving right along.
Okay, all set. So yeah, just real quick, Kelly, so if you could just email to me basically whatever those few items are that they need for the next meeting, and I'll be sure to take care of those for you.
Yep, and I'll work with George on that as well. I'll keep you all both in the CC chain there.
Okay, all right, great. So I guess
All right,
I'm all
gentlemen.
set for tonight.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank
you
you
very
all.
much.
Have a good night. All right, thank
See you
you,
in the
Kelly.
movies.
All right,
night.
take care. All right, good night now.
Good night.
Stay safe.
All right.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? This is Deborah.
Gail, is that you? Yeah.
Yes. Who was that other gentleman? I came in late because I couldn't
Okay,
log in.
we had William Vincenzi, who's the applicant, and we
Right.
had his consultant, who is
George Logan.
what's his name here?
I'll just be down consultant. That's all right.
George Logan,
George
Logan,
Logan.
Did George drop?
Logan of
Thank you.
REMA Ecological Services.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
did Mr. Logan drop off?
He did.
Oh, I thought he might address the Hall Lane discussion with Kelly. All right, never mind.
He did have another call with South Windsor. He's on another Zoom meeting for 7:30. So I know he was prior time, so he may have had to jump onto that call. So I'm not sure.
Kelly, he's going to do the regular monitoring now, like we decided way back when.
That technically doesn't start or doesn't kick into effect until the actual permit, I guess, is initiated. Like we still don't have the performance bond. We haven't had a pre-con meeting, so that hasn't really started yet, I guess. And then did you see the letter he just sent me right before our meeting? I sent it to everyone via email, but it was kind of last minute, so I could either recap it if you'd like, or we can talk about it at our next meeting.
Well, let's go through this thing on the agenda, and then we'll get into that letter, okay?
I think
So the
that's
next item on the agenda is 2017-4 Hawley Lane.
That's the one we're talking about now.
I know that, but we didn't get to that point on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
You got it? You started talking about it before we got to that. So,
Sorry.
was excited.
Right, you're going to wait. So
Mr. Chairman, just
Ellie?
keep it a tabled item, I would say.
it was a tabled item, so we have to take it off the table. Thank you. We have a motion to take this off the table.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Second.
I'll
second.
second.
All right, all in favor? All right, it's off the table. So Kelly spoke to George Logan concerning this free fill construction debris that the applicant got and stockpiled on the job. Correct, Kelly?
Correct.
And she asked him, as I understand it, to investigate it and to report back to its suitability as clean fill. Is that correct, Kelly?
Correct.
And so then she got that letter today that she emailed to us, where he made representations that it's clean fill. You have any comments on that, Kelly?
No, not really.
So
I mean,
we had,
the-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the only recommendation he had was to seed the pile until it gets used, because it doesn't. I'm not sure when they're gonna start construction, or I don't know when that permit will be initiated. So.
Well, they're not going to start construction until they get some money, and that could be who knows what now.
Although that some portions of that project have begun, because I know that they have gone before the Architectural Review Board for the diner structure itself. So some portions of that project are in motion, but not our portion.
All right, so we had, in the last meeting, we had a cease and desist order that we withdrew with some comments. Am I correct or am I losing my mind?
No, you're correct.
That's correct.
Well, it could be both, actually.
Yes, it could be.
So that being said, what is there for us to do on this at this point?
Or do we take the cease and desist order off?
I believe we did that at the last meeting.
It has been removed?
Yes.
That's my recollection.
Okay. All right.
And we just asked for some clarification, which was offered. I guess we're going to say it's acceptable at this point, correct, Kelly?
We can, or because everyone just received it right before the meeting, if you didn't feel as though you had enough time to review it, we can wait till May if you want a more thorough review of it. I don't know how the commission feels.
Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we have Mr. Logan's opinion that that's clean fill, but I think as we've all recognized, it was demolition material, and there's a lot of other material that had come off of the dwelling with the partial demolition via fire department. And I'm having a difficulty, categorizing that as clean fill. As we recognized at the last meeting, roof material like a flat roof of the 1950s probably was 50% asbestos. And I don't know if anything was done by Mr. Logan to make any clarification on how clean fill is. So what I'm saying is we don't necessarily have to accept Mr. Logan's opinion.
Well, I mean, I don't know what it is for us to act on. We just got the letter today or yesterday. We could certainly just table this again and think about it over the next month and then bring it up at the next meeting. Or I don't know that there's anything for us to do with this letter. We asked his opinion, he gave it.
But what
Well,
are we looking,
I'm open to any comments.
what are we looking for exactly?
That might be the question. Kelly?
Can I just say something? When I did talk to Mr. Logan on the phone before he issued this letter, we did discuss the idea of potentially taking some samples and sending them to a lab. What would they be analyzed for? I'm not quite sure, because I don't know exactly where this material came from. But obviously, it's apparent he didn't do that, and he felt comfortable with saying what he did. So, in my opinion, the only thing we could really ask for is maybe some laboratory analytical to back up his claim on this specific material, as opposed to, I mean, it was kind of general. He was saying generally this material is clean based on what he's seen on other properties, but he didn't sample, no one sampled this material specifically, so.
well, according to
Mr.
our
Messina.
regulations, yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Our regulations allow us to hire consultants as well, independently of the applicant. So my suggestion would be to go along with the chairman's suggestion that we table this again and deliberate on it and discuss it at the next meeting for possible further action.
Certainly, as we all know, the art of sampling is how you pick the sample. So perhaps we should table this, think about it, and consider some oversight of the sampling procedure, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Sounds good.
So we have a motion to table this again? Put it
I'll
back
make
on
a
the table?
I'll make a motion to table it, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All opposed? No. Okay, so that
Hey, Tom?
we'll put that there and we'll think about it. And so all we have to do is make sure that if we get samples, that they're representative and we're comfortable that they're not cherry picked. And then whatever it is, it is.
Hey, Tom, this is John.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you and Kelly. Given the state of affairs out there with this COVID virus, I know most of these projects may not start up right away. So there may not be a collection of people together doing this construction. I'm sure this is out of our purview. If they want to start and have people together while this virus is going on, I would assume that's their responsibility. But I would personally think from a town's point of view, we should not aggravate the situation if anything should arise.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chairman, is that Mr. Waite?
Yes, it is.
I totally agree with Mr. Waite. I think the situation at hand has changed a lot of way of thinking, and we really should just keep this on the back burner until things let up and things loosen up with construction and everything else.
That's fine.
Not that we want to see.
We just gave it 30 days, so, and we can take another look at it in 30 days from now.
Yeah.
I mean, we would all like to see this go ahead and different things and different projects take place for the town. But again, given the situation we're in, I would rather be safe than sorry.
Fair enough. All right, moving right along. New business. 2019-11 Lordship Boulevard. They want to add 5,500 square foot addition to the building they proposed at Mobile Chemical that they're going to put up after they knock it down. So Kelly, what do you got on that for us?
So essentially, they're looking to make the building whole. And by doing so, a portion, I think it's the southeastern portion, will extend into the Upland Review area for that small little wetland area. I personally am okay with it. I was just hoping that we could I wanted to get some more information on how that affects their stormwater conveyance system, if at all. By this, essentially it's an increase of impervious area, so I wanted to make sure that was accounted for. And then I was also just hoping that maybe we could increase some wetland planting this addition area, just to try to create more of an offset of this impervious area as well. So those are my two concerns with this permit.
Okay. So is the applicant or are his representatives
Yes,
here?
Manny
who
Silva from
got-
Rhodes T-Zone Company here, and the owner, Representative Leif Ronaldson. If I can get the, I could do a quick little presentation if I can get the presentation screen from Kelly.
Yes, bear with me.
No problem. Okay.
All right, you got it?
Yep.
All right.
Share. So what we have here is the project. This is the existing Naugatuck chemical. I hope everybody can see this.
Yep.
So this was previously approved. Essentially, what we are proposing is a 368 square foot warehouse building to take place of the Naugatuck, not the Naugatuck, the mobile chemical building with some parking here around the sides for regular cars, and then there's loading docks on the west side here with loading parking here. There's also a big parking area here that we're going to eliminate. And the wetlands, the current wetlands there's a small kind of a drainage swale that's flagged as wetlands, and then a bigger wetland here, which is just where the water gets basically trapped here, where there's an old railroad line that comes across, railroad spur that comes across a spot road extension. So just bear with the, so what we have here is we went to the DEP to get a stormwater, a coastal area approval, or CAM. And one thing that they asked us to do was to change, we had one downstream defender on the previous approval from wetlands, and they recommended that we get rid of that one downstream defender that was after the storage and add 12 storm scepters in the catch basins prior to the water going into the underground galleries. Number two was to over excavate these areas and to put 1.5 to 2 feet of fill underneath, select fill underneath the galleries, so that it would promote more drainage in being infiltrated into the ground. He had some concerns that the soils underneath were too compact, so that's to kind of loosen things up and allow them to infiltrate a lot easier. So you can see here is what Kelly was talking about. So we got the Wetlands Commission has this 100 foot setback area, and that's what we came in for to construct within that at your last meeting. And you approved that without a public hearing, which we appreciate, and thank you for that. But we'd like to square off the building like this, and to do that, we'd have to be within the zoning commission's 50-foot wetland setback. And that kind of brings up an interesting thing here. And in the zoning, this is the Stratford zoning regulations, page 26, 314. And this is kind of a special thing we'd like to ask you. We'd like your approval, but we really need it to be via a public hearing because of this provision here, where it says because we have a special exception application, we don't necessarily have to be outside of the 50-foot, but we need the Stratford Inland Wetlands Commission and said application to be approved by the commission, and provided further that a public hearing be held by the inland wetlands as such. So basically what that means is we need your approval, but we need your approval with a public hearing. Otherwise, we will not be allowed to build within the 50-foot setback, even if this commission dubs it no or reasonable impact. So we'd like to request that we go to a public hearing, even though the last approval didn't, just so we can go meet the zoning requirement here. So again, some of the changes that we did were basically, instead of having a downstream defender here on the outlet to the Honey Spot Road, we now have water quality units at every catch basin prior to the water going into the underground galleries here. As you can see, we have 12 units around here. So that basically, instead of the treatment train now starts with a oil water separator and a grit separator, and then it goes into the underground gallery system, which is it's a substantial gallery system that goes all the way around the exterior of the building. To be exact, I believe it's labeled right. I'll get you the linear footage in a little bit, but the system has the primary and secondary treatment. Secondary treatment is obviously these oil water separators and grit separators, and the primary treatment is the water infiltrating into the ground, which for the most part, all the water gets will be infiltrating here on site. So one thing that is important to note that this site currently is 100% connected to the Honey Spot Road sewer system. So with this application, we take nearly 100% of the site offline, which meets our MS4 requirement, more than meets it, so that there's no issues there. Again, here's the drainage report. Just going to scroll down real quick. Not going to bore you with the numbers. I know everybody's got things to do, and I know these are your favorite things to look at, but we analyzed the stormwater for the 2, 25, and 50 and 100-year storm. Again, all this was designed to the squared off building, the rectangular building. That's really what we always intended to build, but we couldn't because of that zoning requirement. And as you can see, we have a reduction in the storm event, 41% at the 2-year storm, 47% at the 25-year storm. We have a 29% reduction at the 50-year storm and a 25.9% reduction at the 100-year storm. And so basically, that's what we'd like for you guys to, the commission, to accept the application and suggest and basically schedule a public hearing so that we can get your approval for these minor changes, but also fulfill the zoning requirements, which has a requirement for the 50-foot setback from wetlands.
Commissioner Wade is speaking. I have a quick question for you. When you mention you have to take the system offline, do you have a time frame? And I mean, obviously, the public hearing will inform them of the time frame.
So we have a permit for constructing the building with the notch cut out in it right now, and we're working on I don't have Leaf interrupt me if I'm wrong here, but I believe they're doing some abatement right now and cleanup of the existing building. And so what we're going to do is right now, all the catch basins, everything, all the roof leaders are connected straight to the Stratford sewer system without any storage or anything or any water treatment really, except for one oil water separator, which just catches the polymer pellets. But otherwise, the catch basins on site and roof leaders go straight out into the Stratford system, which inundates the Honey Spot Road extension system, and it floods that road. So what we did is, so with this proposal, once we start working on this, we'll demo the building, put soil erosion controls, soil erosion controls first, demo the building, start removing some of those existing catch basins and things of that nature, and it'll basically go offline then. And then we'll build our new system. The drainage goes in first, and then we'll have foundations, building going up. And at that point, once our drainage system goes in, which is basically right after we remove the existing system, it'll be offline from Honey Spot Road. It'll just have an overflow.
Okay.
All right, so,
Thank
and
you.
any other questions by any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question of the superintendent. Kelly, this is going to be handled as a new permit application, right?
No, this is a permit modification.
Well, in the regs, I think it has to go through the full process, right?
It does have to go through as, it's a modification to the original permit, but it's going through the process as though it were a new permit essentially. But it's going to be a modification of the original permit. So it does have to be accepted and then voted upon. And if you want to go to public hearing, just like a regular permit would go.
Right. Well, the question is, what do we do this evening? Do we accept it as an application, then at the subsequent meeting, schedule a public hearing?
Well, if I may, it seems to me that we have to determine whether or not this is a significant activity requiring a public hearing. The fact that zoning has a statement in there, I think is independent of our requirements to hold public hearings on significant activities. Is that the way you read that, Kelly?
I agree. We are independent of zoning, so what zoning is doing should have no bearing on what we are doing.
You know, on the other hand, we can have a public hearing, but it ends up to be just going through the motions, basically.
Unfortunately, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's basically a procedural thing at this point. Like, it's a catch-22 we're really caught into.
So, if we're not prepared to render any kind of decision right now, we can table this and think about it for a month. It's your pleasure, commissioners. Whatever you, oh, excuse me. Are there any other comments by the applicant? I'm sorry.
Do you have anything, Lee?
I guess the one thing I would just hope you could consider is that it is an approved permit already, and that we are making just an amendment to it.
Yeah, but that makes it hard to go to a public hearing on something that's already approved.
It's a kind of a conundrum between the two boards.
Yes.
It makes sense.
I mean, if it's approved, why would we go to a public hearing? And as Kelly said, we didn't write this into the zoning regulations, and they're independent of us. And I understand, you know, they're between a rock and a hard place, but so are we. We already approved the thing. Now we're going to say, oh, let's open it up to the public for comments.
Hey, Tom,
Yes, sir.
this is John again. We might want to think about curtailing any public hearing unless it's going to be via video, which I don't think it's going to happen with the public. Again, we've got this virus issue. You do not want people sitting together in a room debating this.
Well, I'm sure we can have a public hearing, and I'm sure the public can access it by video, and we can meet our statutory requirements. But
Wait, can I interject really quick too? Under the governor's executive orders, we have up to 90 days to play with where we can extend our regulatory deadlines as well. So we could vote that maybe it's in the public's interest to extend this another month out from what we normally can do, or even 2 months, etc. So we do have that to play with as well.
right. But having said that, I don't think any of us wants to just string people along 90 days at a time. And I'm sure the applicants don't want to be just stretched out forever. So,
Hey, Tom, I'm
Uh,
sorry to interrupt again. Even though this is a procedural thing, whether it's procedural or whether it's alive, you're still not going to get a lot of people, given the issues and being scared of just going out in public. It's going to be
Well,
tough.
why don't we do this? Let me make a suggestion. Why don't we table this and ask the superintendent to maybe huddle up with our lawyers
Right,
and take
Right.
a look at this thing with zoning, because
right.
this is just, all they're doing is trying to push the thing off onto another commission so that they don't have to take, the way I read it, responsibility. So why don't we, I'm sorry, applicants, string you along for 30 days and have Kelly talk to our staff attorney and see if there's some way around this, because we already have an approved thing. This modification is barely anything that we would, I believe, normally just approve and send you on your way.
Mr.
Does that
Chairman-
sound like any kind of plan to the commissioners?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. McCann.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any question which way the vote's going to go. My concern is that with the zoning commission, that they're going to say, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to, and he's going to get held up on that side, and it's going to make us funny.
Well, that's why I suggested Kelly talk to the attorneys, and maybe they can talk to the zoning commission and figure some work around this, because the thing is approved, and why would we have a public hearing on an approved application?
Well, it's only because of what's in their regs. It says a
I
public hearing
understand that,
will be
but
held by the Wetlands Commission.
well, if you guys want to call a public hearing on this, that's fine with me. We'll call a public hearing. Nobody will come, but that's fine.
No, I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just saying the applicant may have problems if we don't conform to what.
I understand.
Tommy, who's their neighbors that are going to appear at this public hearing?
Nobody.
This is going to be a public hearing with nobody showing up. We've had many of
Exactly.
them.
I think it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time, of course, but it's only, it's to help the applicant so he conforms to the zoning stipulation.
Is there a way they can put a notice in the paper?
We absolutely can.
Without a public hearing? In other words, if someone wants a public hearing, they just,
Going back to the chairman's thought, I think Kelly's got to talk to the lawyers and just say, what's up? And actually talk to zoning and ask them if they have any way
Right.
of getting.
That's my suggestion. And rather than go through some big charade and then find out, I don't know, somebody's going to say, well, you didn't cross your T's and dot your I's or something like that.
That's what's going to happen.
But it's up to you guys, whatever you want.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Hoydick, I totally agree with you. I think we should get an opinion from the attorney's office. We don't want to get caught up in the middle of what zoning's regulations are, what our regulations are. Let's get some kind of an opinion, and Kelly could talk it out if she wants to get involved with zoning. But I don't believe this should go to a public hearing. I don't think it's our responsibility to do it. That's my opinion.
I agree, Mr. Hoyt, but I don't, we have to get that opinion from the lawyer.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
so-
I think what Tom said is exactly correct. Let's get an opinion, and then we can move from there.
So in order to do that, we'll need a motion to table this and instruct the superintendent to pursue that opinion between the lawyers and the zoning, report back to us, and we'll take it up at the next meeting.
Make a recommendation that we table this.
We have a motion to table. We have a second.
I
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'm sorry. But I think this will be, maybe in the long run, a shorter path for you. You know, we're not trying to hold you guys up.
I
We're
understand.
kind of just stuck in a ping pong game. You know, we knew it was
Right.
going to go back and forth.
Well, I hope not. I hope we can solve it. Let us at least try, and then we'll go from there. Fair enough?
Very
All
good.
right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, staff report. Kelly?
Sure. All right. So we're still working on all these old performance bonds. That's kind of been put on hold lately because we've been busy with some other things. So hasn't been at the forefront with the old ones from like the early 2000s at least. I did get a quote for the conservation easement and inland wetland boundary signs. For 50 of each, it'll be $12.95. And then I just got another quote in today, and it's a little over $1,000 for both. So it does look like we have some money in the account, but I was hoping to wait till the end of the fiscal year just to make sure, and then order them perhaps next month or the following month, if that's all right with you folks. I don't know if you guys want to actually see. I can provide both of the quotes for you if you'd like to review them beforehand, or I'm not sure how that typically works with purchasing items for you folks. I don't know if you have any opinion on that.
I think wait until the end of the fiscal year is closer is prudent, just to make sure.
Yep.
I don't care about seeing the quotes. What about you, gents?
Wait,
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, Kelly, so
Okay.
that's what you do on that.
I think we will have enough money based on what we've done, how money has been spent in this commission in years past. We should be fine, but I just want to be sure, just in case. You never know. All right, let me get back to my other screen here. Oh yeah, so Nate has been doing really great work on the conservation easement mapping. He is now working really closely with MetroCog on creating a GIS database, so it'll all be mapped digitally. And then we will move on from there. So that's really exciting that we've gotten really far along in that project. At least I think it's exciting. Moving on to administrative report. I did issue a warning letter to Michael D'Angelo. I think you all received it in your package. Apparently, I don't know how involved you guys have been with this in the past, but I talked to Tina after I issued the warning, and apparently this has been a long, ongoing issue with him entering the conservation easement on his ATV and storing materials within the conservation easement. I did talk to Michael D'Angelo since I issued the warning letter, and it turns out that the stone wall that was placed there, we actually placed there to keep him out of the conservation easement area. So I told him that's fine and well, mistake on our part. But I did reiterate he has to stop driving his ATV through the conservation easement, and he's driving it through a wetland area as well. So, but we have numerous photos from his neighbor of him sticking his tongue out, looking at the camera on his ATV in the wetland. So hopefully this will curtail that activity, but well, yet to be seen, I guess. Oh yes, okay. So moving on to our administrative permits. I think 4 administrative permits have been issued since the last time we all have met. The first one was for the Benel athletic fields. They're replacing the synthetic turf material on the existing synthetic field, and they're replacing some of the track edging and spray coating. And then ultimately they'll be converting one of the natural grass fields to a synthetic turf field, but I don't believe they'll be doing that soon. They may be doing that years down the road. So that, then a residential above ground swimming pool at 50 Ross Drive, self-explanatory. Sikorsky is replacing their fuel pumps within the upland review area of the Far Mill River. And then we have some residential landscaping improvements at 475 Nutmeg Lane, putting in a patio and a deck and doing some minor grading. And that's all I have for administrative permits. And that's all I have for my staff report.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Okay, so next item is Commissioners Forum. Do any of the commissioners have anything to discuss?
I don't think so.
Okay, before we call for adjournment, Gail, you have everything you need.
I think so. I'll tell you what, Kelly, you are coming through terribly on my end. Everybody else I can hear perfectly. It's like Kelly's talking in a different language.
You got to get that. You got to get that.
I'm going to do the best I can. Let's put it that way.
Okay, Gail, I've also been taking notes as well, so I have some notes I can share with you, and then we have this whole thing recorded, so hopefully the recording is
You
much
know what I'm
clearer.
going to do, Kelly? I'm going to send it to you, and this time you look at it, okay? Just to
Sounds
make
good.
sure I have everything, all right?
Perfect.
Okay, so I think you guys all did a fine job here tonight, and I thank
Yes,
you.
this turned out very well.
I'm impressed.
Yes.
So now I'm going to call for my favorite motion.
I make a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting, and in addition to that, please, everybody stay safe. Don't do anything crazy. We want to see you again.
All right, we have a second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Have a
right,
good
we
night.
adjourn. Good night. You
Good
guys
night.
did a great
Thank
job.
you.
Kelly, you did a great job. And so did you, Gail. All right,
Thank you.
over and
Oh,
out.
Tom,